In today's video segment on World War II, we're going to be taking a look at some different developments in several different aspects of the war and looking at technology, aviation, weaponry, and communication and their effects on World War II in the United States economy. So in your Social Studies notebook, if you would, set up the next clean page in your notebook with the indicator from the South Carolina Curriculum Standards. And then let's take a look. There were many key developments during this time period that helped bring the United States out of the Great Depression. It gave a boost to the economy because of the amount of wartime production that was going on. So I want you to take a look. There's a graph on this page, U.S. unemployment rate. Now I want you to think about the question. It says, what does this graph tell you? What is decreasing over time and what does that indicate? So if you look, paying attention to the map for just a second, you see June 1938. All the way down over here, you have June 1942. The unemployment rate is the number of people unemployed. So if you come in to this, I'll just draw a line here to look at something. That you could see roughly 20% of people were unemployed during June 1938. If you come down further over, and I'm just going to come and draw a line here at 5 and come across. Within that first year of the war, the unemployment rate drops down below 5%. So you can see there's a huge change in the number of people that are working. So this means that because of the war, what happens? More people are at work, they have jobs. So some key points off of this page to keep in mind. Is with an increase in production necessary to sustain the war effort, the economy of the United States experienced a boost, lifting the nation out of the Great Depression. So let's take a look at what some of these key advancements were. First one we're going to talk about is advancements in medicine. There were many different advances in medicine during this time period that made a huge impact on the war. So what were a few examples? First of all, the first antibiotic, penicillin, prolonged the lives of Americans and then contributed to an aging population. So penicillin comes about during this time and provides a way to treat infections. I want you to think about if you've ever been to the doctor and you've had a bacterial infection of some kind, the doctor gave you antibiotic to help fight that. That antibiotic helps your body fight against your ailment so that you could be better. So there were advances in medicine. The big one to keep in mind is penicillin, and it was the first antibiotic that gets heavily used during this time period. Then there were advances in aviation. So I want you to think about aviation, the ability for aircraft. We spent some time in class talking about this idea with the DBQ on the attack on Pearl Harbor. The aviation innovations included improved bombers that were able to fly farther and use radar to track these planes and to spot enemy planes. By the end of the war, jets were being developed. After the war, personal and business air travel and transportation of goods around the world grew significantly because of aviation technology. So during the war, what were some things that happened? You had improved bombers that were able to fly further and use radar to track these planes and to spot enemy planes. This is going to impact the United States after the war because people are going to start using that as a form of transportation. So after the war, personal and business air travel and transportation of goods around the world grew. And it was all because of this effort during the war. There were also many advances in communication. Secret communications codes developed during the war contributed to the development of computer systems designed to break those codes. The first computers were room-sized machines. The computer industry has grown tremendously in the last 60 years, and as a result, Americans enjoy almost instant access to information through the use of personal computers, laptops, smartphones, tablets, and other handheld devices. So I want you to think a little bit. The whole war, there's this secret communication taking place, and it's in code. Computer programs run on code. So that same idea is what leads to the devices that we like to use today. So it impacts us long term. One of the really interesting points that I think about during this is the fact that the first computers were actually room-sized machines. To kind of give you a perspective on how technology has changed since this time period. Now at the bottom here we have a couple different pictures of communications taking place. The one on the right is actually the Navajo Code Talkers, which we'll be talking about in class. There were also advances in weaponry. Weaponry changed drastically during this time. There's a few things that I want to emphasize during this time. The 2 atom bombs that were dropped on Japan were developed by a team of scientists in the United States who were trying to beat the Germans to the technology. So although Albert Einstein encouraged President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to establish the Manhattan Project that developed the bomb, he was not involved in the process. Atomic technology has had significant impact on the economy of the United States since World War II. Something we're going to talk about when we get into the Cold War will be the arms race, and it was started as a result of this control of the atom bomb project that the United States was involved in. And we're going to be talking about it because the arms race becomes a competition to build new and better bombs, and all that takes place during the Cold War. The race itself is very much like a competition. What happens because of that competition? There was a lot of excess and extensive government spending to take place on that research because they had to spend money to try to develop new technology and weaponry. Now, it did have a positive impact, that it did stimulate the economy and focus spending on the military, which was an effort that was taking place in many countries throughout the world. So throughout this lesson, I want you to think about what some of the advances were. And for your final activity in your notebook during this lesson, I'm going to ask that you pick on an area and explain how advances in it not only helped us in World War II, but how the advances continued to develop and change daily life for Americans in the years to come. I want you to create a graphic to do this and include captions and labels with your pictures to help convey the impact of the advances have made. So creating a visual this time, pick some advancement in technology or in medicine or in aviation, and focus on that and create an illustration to go along with your notes today. Finish.